Hey, what's up everyone? Travis here again with a another quick SIG tutorial, and I'm gonna try to make this under 10 minutes. I probably won't make it, but I should probably stop rambling and go ahead and get started. So, here's a render. It's transparent. It's a really nice one. It's from Black Ops 2, and I just opened it up in another document. It's a .png, which is why it has transparency, and I'm just gonna click and drag it into this over here, which is going to be my signature. Now I'm going to hit Control T to make this a little smaller and basically arrange it how I want. And I think I like it about right there. I'll hit enter. And you'll notice that this is actually the 100% right here. And I'm doing this signature a lot bigger than a normal signature would be. And that's just so that you guys can see on the screen what's going on. Because I know most signature tutorials, they'll be like this small or even this small. And you're trying to kind of like look at what's really going on. So I figured I would do this a lot bigger for you guys to actually see the steps that I'm taking rather than trying to squint and figure out what I was doing. So, to do the background, basically this is the original render, and I'm actually going to change this to more of a green color, and I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue, and Saturation, and I'm going to change this to more of like a limeish green right there, and I'll click OK. And I know it looks a little weird, but it won't in the end. Let's make another layer and drag it down below beneath this guy, and I'm going to hit the gradient tool up here, and what we want is we basically want to start with kind of a dark gray like this, and then end with a dark gray, but then in the center, and I've already done it before, but we basically click and we kind of choose what color we want. And I kind of like this green right here. And what this is going to do is kind of light up the background. So I'll hit G for the gradient tool. Sometimes it's hidden under the paint bucket, so just click and drag. And the effect we're kind of going for is about right there. And you'll notice the gradient's kind of going in the direction of the render. And I'm actually going to move this render just a little bit more to give it more life. And please excuse my dog squeaking his toy in the background. Jax! You stop that, mister. Alright, so he doesn't care. Alright, so this is our background, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit Control J or Command J on a Mac to duplicate this render quite a few times, and I'm going to hide all the other ones, and I'm going to select the very bottom one, and I'm going to start smudging this out basically with a smudge brush. And you can download these smudge brushes, and I'll go ahead and try to link you to a couple, but this is the one I'm using here. But all it is you can even use a let's see, we can even use a normal brush that's kind of soft, and then you just go into these brush settings here, or right there, and we want scattering and yeah, all these other settings. And then when we start, you'll see it kind of smudges sort of randomly. But for this, I like to use already made brushes like this one, just because it gives me a little bit more cool effect. And I'm just going to basically smudge out the entire render. And in the beginning of this tutorial, I said I was going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. I don't think I'm going to be able to, because there's quite a lot of steps involved here to get a really nice professional signature, and it is going to take some time. But go ahead and just bear with me. Alright, so now that I got this smudged out here, I'm going to change the blending mode to something like linear dodge. Yes. Let's do color dodge for this one, and then this next one I'm basically going to do the same thing, except I'm going to do a little bit less smudging, and I'm probably going to make this brush size just a tad smaller too. And this layer, once we're done smudging, is going to be set to probably linear dodge. And linear dodge lightens up everything and gives some pretty cool effects. And I'm just clicking over and over, and this brush is automatically resizing for me, which is in the brush presets. And most smudge brushes, when you download them, will already have the settings set up when you select the brush. And then one last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start pulling this out. I'm clicking and dragging, and what I'm doing is I'm going in the direction of the render, and the render is kind of like a diagonal. So I'm trying to just basically come out here a little bit more and give this some more size to it. I'm not just going in random directions, I'm kind of going in that diagonal flow. Alright, so let's change this to, let's see, to be honest, I like lighter color, and let me smudge some of these out too. And it's kind of trial and error sometimes with blending modes. Sometimes certain ones will work better with different colors, and then some other ones, will work differently. But for this, I'm thinking that the effect that I'm kind of going for is looks best with this blending mode. Okay, and now with this guy, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smudge out some of the things that aren't the focal. And for me, the focal is mostly right here, his face with the scope, and then all the way out to here to the edge of the gun. So I'm actually going to smudge out some of these pieces down here, and then maybe over here towards his shoulder. Yeah, and then I'll change this to, let's see. That's pretty cool. I'll change it to hard light and turn the opacity down to about 25, and then I'll take one more clean layer and slowly turn the opacity down just a little bit on that, just barely. And I'll go ahead and smudge out sort of some of those same areas. Yeah, that doesn't look bad. I'm actually going to change this hue and saturation of this top one to give it a little bit more of a lime greenish. Right now it's a little bit solid green. Let's see, yellowish more. Yeah, about right there. It looks a little better, just barely. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add some lighting in this, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete these other two layers. And what you're going to want to do is look at your render and try to figure out where the light source is. So you can see on his right side, our left, it's really lit up over here. So there's a light coming from this direction, but then back here there's also some light coming kind of from behind and on his shoulder. So there's kind of two light sources. So with that said, go ahead and take a really a hard brush actually, so like that. And go ahead and sample kind of a greenish color, and you can hold Alt, by the way, when you have your brush out to pull up the eyedropper, and then you can come across and start picking out what color you want. And the color we want is kind of, I just saw it down here, it's pretty good. Somewhere around there, like a light green, and we'll actually come in and we'll make it a little brighter. And we want to actually add a layer, excuse me, beneath this, like that, so almost like where the light's coming from behind. So we'll add one here, and I'll go ahead and add a little bit smaller one right here, and there's a little bit of lighting coming over here. Let's add that right there, and we'll add just one more right here. So these are our lights basically, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the smudge brush again, and I'm going to smudge out the edges of these so that they don't look like just solid circles, and they look a little more natural and sort of organic-ish. We don't want the hard edge, is basically what we're trying to do. Okay, so you see how there's no more hard edges, and let's try some different blending modes here. I'm thinking linear dodge, but that might be too harsh. Yeah, we'll do linear dodge, but turn down the opacity just a bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add one blank layer above the render, and if you hold Alt or Option, you'll get this little icon here, and this is basically adding, I think, it's a clipping mask. Yeah, that's what it's called, a clipping mask into this layer. So now anything I brush on this layer is only going to show up what it's clipped to, and right now it's clipped to the render. So if I just brush over here, you're not going to see anything, but then once I get to the render, you see it starts to go over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really soft brush of that same light, and I'm going to brush over basically where my original lights were. So there was one here, right there, and about right there. And let's see what looks best in this situation. I'm thinking linear dodge, and then let's turn down the opacity quite a bit to about 60, 50 to 60. Yeah, about right there. And what this is doing is basically we're extending these like background lights to look like they're actually coming across into the render. I think we're actually going to go with color dodge for the background. And yeah, we'll keep the same blending mode for that one. Yeah, that doesn't look bad. And you can see how the render is starting to kind of look like it's supposed to be in this scene instead of just placed on here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab a C4D, and again, you can get these pretty much anywhere if you just Google them. And you want to find some that will go well with your oh, it's in the clipping mask. One sec. You want it to go well with the flow of your signature, and this one works well because the signature is kind of diagonal, and this kind of has a nice diagonal look to it. So arrange it how you want, and I actually want these, let's see, I know I want it like behind the light. So yeah, we'll put it right back here, and then what we'll do is we'll smudge this out quite a lot as well, because we just want this to sort of be the background in a way. And then let's change this to something like screen. That's color dodge. Screen, color dodge looks a lot better. And I'm actually going to move this up to like about there. So now we kind of got a little bit of background. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually open up one more C4D to put in the background. And we'll kind of move this like that. You can see it's kind of going in the direction of the actual render, which is good. And we'll change this to screen, and then I'm going to actually hit Control-Shift-U to desaturate it, and then I'm going to smudge this out as well, because I don't want these little sharp edges in the renders, in the C4D renders, to be the focal. I want my render to be the focal, but this is just adding some good background element and lighting to the actual to the whole scene. Let's see. That doesn't look too bad. Let's see what something else looks like. That looks pretty good. Like I said, this is honestly just kind of playing around, because sometimes certain ones will just look better. I'm thinking color dodge for this one. It's adding some nice lighting down there. Alright, so the next thing is we're going to add a gradient map, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the very top, add a new layer, and if you hit G, you can bring up the same gradient if you haven't done anything different, the same gradient as before, and basically you want to try to get the same angle that you did in the very beginning, which was about, let's see, it's about right there, and change that to soft light. And then turn down the opacity quite a bit, and we're just basically wanting the edges to get darker and the middles to get lighter, which you can see if we go back and forth, it's doing its job. So let's turn the opacity of that to about 30%. We don't want it too crazy, but you can see it does have a small effect. And let's see, the next thing is let's go ahead and add a new layer, and we'll get a soft brush, which yeah, we'll get a really soft brush. We'll change that to white. And what we want to do is we want to add just a quick tap to the most lighted areas in the scene, which I think are all back here, and change that to something like soft light, and then turn down the opacity to maybe about 40%. That adds just a little more lighting, kind of brings your attention in more. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out real quick, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a pretty big, let's see, zoom. We're going to be adding a pretty big brush here, and to do that, let's create a new layer. We'll select our brush, we'll make it a really soft brush, and then we're going to make it pretty big, about right here, and we want to light up the scene based on where the lighting is. And I know that most of the light's coming from up here in this direction and kind of behind, so we just want the edge of this brush to affect that right there. So about right there, and then we'll go ahead and take this kind of darkish gray color, we'll add it some right here, and maybe a little bit right there. There we go. And you can see the difference here. You see how it kind of blends in some of the colors now? Definitely a must when you're doing these. So that's with it, and that's without. Alright, so now let's go ahead and create one new layer, and we'll go to Image, Apply Image, and change this blending to normal, and just click OK. And what this does is it creates a whole blank layer based on all the layers below it. So for now, just don't do this when you're actually doing it, but for now, since I'm done with all of this, I'm just going to delete it. That way I just have what I've done so far in this one layer. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this applied image, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, gaussian bleu, and let's set this to about 2.5, maybe 3. It depends on kind of how big your canvas is sometimes, but I'm going to click OK on that, and then I'm just going to take a really soft eraser, and I'm going to erase the main parts that I want to be in focus, which is about all of this right here. That looks good. Now if you see you see it's kind of blurring out this edge, and let me get a little more detail in there. It's blurring out that edge right here, and it's blurring off the background quite a bit. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but it really does help to keep your audience focused on what needs to have the focus, which is your main render. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to create a gradient, and I'm going to choose basically black to transparent. Actually, let's do black to transparent, and let's go ahead and change the black to a let me see here. Let's do like a dark blue. And hit OK. Yeah, that works. And I'm just going to start from up here where the darker area is, and I'm going to come across all the way down like so. I'll change that to soft light, turn the opacity down pretty much all the way, and then kind of bump it up as needed. So about 50% is where that's at. Let's change it down to about 40. And then we'll add one more gradient, and instead of a dark blue, which is like a cool color, we'll do sort of like a orangish yellow that's a little bit lighter, something like that, and go up from this side. Actually, we'll kind of come down from here. Change that to soft light, bring down the opacity, and maybe bump it up just a little bit. That just adds a little bit in there. So now we'll hit new layer, we'll go to image, apply image once again, click OK. And now what we want to do is we want to start to basically sharpen what needs to be in focus and then blur out some more. So in this tool right here where your smudge is, we can take the blur tool, and I'm going to blur kind of like the bottom of this gun here and keep the top sharp. Come blur all that right down here, blur this edge out, and my strength's on 100% because I want it to be pretty blurred, so you can adjust that as you need as well. Alright, so now that that's all blurred out, I'm going to change this to sharpen, and I'm just going to sharpen with one click just some things that I think need to be sharpened up, like this over here, maybe his face. There we go. And now one other thing you can do, which is pretty cool, if you go to filter, click sharpen, and then hit sharpen, it sharpens the whole thing, and it's a little bit too much, and but then you can go to edit, fade sharpen, and now you can change this down to 0, which is like none. 100% is the full sharpen. So I like to change that to maybe like 30, but you can see the difference if you check and uncheck. So that's without any fade, and then checked it right now, that's with the fade. So about 30% or so, just so it gets a little bit, but not too overbearing. So that's pretty much it for this one. There is one last step, definitely, that I recommend you guys buy this plugin, and it's called Topaz Clean. It's only $30, and I'll link the website in the description. It's called topazlabs.com, I believe. But I'll go ahead and link it for you. It's only $30, but what's awesome about it, and you'll see in just a second when I apply it, is it's going to take all the colors and all the detail, and it's going to kind of do sort of like a little art. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it makes it just look a lot cleaner. It looks like everything is much more just like it belongs together, because right now it does look good, but there's still like some little edges here and stuff that could be blended into each other a lot better, and that's what Topaz does. And before we do that, one last thing you guys definitely should do is go ahead and click on this thing down here and click on gradient map and choose I usually do this blue to orange one, and then you change that blending mode to soft light and turn down the opacity quite a bit, and kind of liking it at about 30%, but then again I kind of like that too. So let's go with about 40%. Let's add another one of these, and let's do, where is it? Let's do hue and saturation, And let's bump down the saturation just a little bit, and we can mess with the hue just a tad to see if there's something we kind of like a little bit more. And I'm thinking if we keep it at about how it is, maybe just a little bit more towards the blue, turn down the saturation just a little bit more, about let's do about -10. Alright, so now I'm going to do one more layer, image, apply image. Alright, so now this is on its own layer, and now this is when I'm going to apply that topaz filter. And it's just really awesome, and you guys will see in just a second what it does. Alright, so let me turn the strength up pretty high on the clean filter here. Maybe turn the threshold up a little bit, and the radius. And I'm just kind of messing around with the settings until I see something I like. Turn the strength down probably a bit. Let's see. There we go. Alright, now I'm just going to turn the radius and the threshold down. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just trying to get like exactly kind of what I'm looking for. About right there. Let me click OK. I'm just going to do its quick processing, but you can see how it like blends everything together, and it kind of gives it sort of like a really interesting watercolorish effect, but everything is kind of blended in really nicely. And obviously I wouldn't keep it just like this, but what I like to do is this is without it, and then this is with it, and I'll turn this applied filter down to about 50%. So now you can see it's not overbearing and all crazy looking, but it's just enough to where it does make a difference and does blend in those kind of background and some of these details. So hope it wasn't too long, guys, and I hope I didn't miss anything, or if I didn't explain something correctly. And if I did, please just go ahead and leave a comment, send me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'm actually pretty quick about responding, so go ahead and definitely leave a comment, and I should give you a reply within about 24 hours. And also, if you liked this and you want to see more of my videos, why not subscribe? And that way each time I add a new video like this, you'll get a quick little email and you can watch it right when it comes out. So once again, guys, thanks again for everything, and hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys next time.